the two things that you learn from the military part of the school when we went to LaSalle was repetition, 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 which means you constantly keep doing the same routine task over and over again until you perfect the task, and where the task almost becomes uh, mundane because in your mind you can do it in your sleep. Uh, the second thing that the military constantly uh, imposes at you is to always be prepared for everything. So you can't take anything for granted. You've got to be prepared.
Hey, everybody, it's Dan Ratkewitch, and this is episode 3 of the Helping Hands podcast. I'm here with my friend Jim Fleming. Jim is with First Equity Title and also a graduate of LaSalle Military Academy, who is also putting together a charity car show event coming up, and also does a lot of work with the Pink Tie Foundation. We're going to get to all that in a little bit, but before we do, Jim, why don't you tell everybody out there that doesn't know who you are, what's your origin story? What's your story, Jim?
Well, first of all, good morning and thank you for having me. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. I've lived on Long Island now for the last 20 years. My wife and two children hail from Dix Hills. I have two grown daughters who still live on with daddy periodically, not full time. Um, uh, I got into the title insurance business approximately 20 years ago. I'm a former banker. I was a commercial lending officer for the first 16 years of my career. And the last now 21 years, I've been selling title insurance here on Long Island all the way up to Albany, New York.
A lot of people, when I talk to them about title insurance and all that other stuff, that's not something that we do. That's you're my expert when it comes to that. People don't understand how important that is in the process and what exactly it is.
Well, title insurance, if you wanted to bring it to its bare minimum, is a protection device that helps people make sure that when they purchase a piece of property, whether it be their residential home or a commercial piece of property, that they are the perfected owner of that property. We do the historical research on the property that makes sure that there are no breaks in the chain of ownership, which and we go back period. Most of the time, we're going to go back 40 years in the history of the property, and we're going to make sure that people don't come out of the woodworks and say, "Wait a minute, you don't really own this home. We do," and force the people to either have to surrender their property or make other financial burdens to their property to keep living in the home or the commercial building. A rare example, and I'm probably jumping the gun a little bit, but is um, recently we had a piece of property where we did the search, and the sellers told the buyers that they own the property, but because of their failure to pay taxes, the county had seized the property and filed a deed. So technically, they weren't legally bound to sell the property to the buyers. And for us to do that research, we saved that buyer the headache and the aggravation of going through this giant financial burden. Because, as you know, what the largest thing that most people spend the most money
Their
on
house,
is to
yeah,
buy their home.
yeah.
So, so we saved these young couple an enormous amount of time and expense. uh, we helped them through the process with the county of Suffolk County to work out an arrangement to settle the debt and have the county sell the property to them. And now they're the new homeowners living free and clear of anybody coming back to them and haunting them and saying, no, this is not yours. It really belongs to someone else.
So if they didn't use you, what would have happened? Would they have been able to buy the house and then one day they could have had a claim against it? Would have
Yes, what eventually would have happened is the county would have came and seized the property from the new owners, forcing them to repay back uh, all of the back taxes that the seller didn't expose, uh, which in this particular case was like $45,000. It had been going on since 2013. Um, they would have had to go and sue the sellers, but in most cases, once somebody sells a piece of property, they disappear.
Right. Especially in that situation, they're not,
Yeah.
they're gonna. So that's actually interesting. I didn't know that. So if you sell the property, the debt that goes along with it could be
Any
transferred.
anything that hasn't been exposed prior to the time that you buy the property, uh, if you didn't have title insurance and
Right.
it popped its weary head later on, it now becomes your burden. So that's the whole really the biggest purpose of buying title insurance is that you're aware of anything that may come out of the woodworks from the past that can pop up that can punish those poor people, and now you have an avenue to go and get your money back from. The great thing about title insurance is if for some reason something of that tragic did pop up, the young couple who have bought the house come back to the title company, our underwriters, and sue and get their money back. And then this way they haven't been hurt by the lack of information that should have been provided before they bought the home.
So by having the title insurance, you're basically protecting yourself from that. There's got to be some other things that other stories that have come up that you've heard of across the years that where people didn't and something happened where.
On one, the most ironic one was I had an individual buying from a family member, and they said, I don't need title insurance, I'm buying from my family. And not realizing when they did that, that the family member who sold the home had gone out the day before and took out a loan on the property. And
The day before,
the day
and the
before he
family. Oh,
transferred it over, and he didn't reveal that. And more importantly, it takes a little time before those documents get recorded and show up.
right.
So about 45 days later, the nephew who bought from the uncle got a letter in the mail saying, you missed your first mortgage payment. And he said, what mortgage payment? There was no mortgage on the premises. Well, that's what my uncle told me. And
My uncle's in Tahiti. I can't talk to him right now.
the uncle didn't go to Tahiti, but he did go to El Salvador.
Oh, okay. All right.
So
Far enough away.
and definitely not going to go find him there. And uh, unfortunately, because he didn't have title insurance, the young man had to assume the burden of the mortgage and make the payments, which he eventually did by unfortunately selling the home to cover the debt that he that the uncle owed to the bank, leaving him with basically no inheritance. And the money that he gave to the uncle for the home, which he thought was a discounted, he lost that too.
Oh my gosh.
So he lost something around $300,000.
And for a title to have the title company is that an expensive thing for your service? What you're doing to make sure to guarantee? Are you guaranteed or basically or insuring? You're insuring, I guess.
Yes, we're insuring and we're guaranteeing ownership, and the premiums are set by the New York State Insurance Fund, and they're based on the value of the home that you're purchasing. So it can escalate if you buy a multi-million dollar home, but in the range that we mostly deal with, people who are buying homes from 300 to say $500,000, you're talking about a 1,200 to 1,400 one-time expense. It's not an annual fee that you pay every year for the protection. You buy the protection for the life of the time you've owned the home. So for the money that you spend, it's worth every penny of it. I could sit here and bore you to death with story after story of people who were grateful to use my services, both on the information I provided before they bought the home and the fact that things that popped up after the fact that they had somewhere to go, a place that had deep pockets and say, listen, you didn't tell me about this, it exposed, I want my money back. And the underwriters that we deal with settled with people, repaid them back or worked out an arrangement where they kept the home and we settled the debts and so forth of that nature.
Right. Well, I think it's important because a lot of, first time home buyers, I mean, buying a home isn't something that most people do all the time, that you know all the ins and outs of everything that's involved. Usually you buy, maybe one, two houses in your lifetime. So you rely on professionals to be able to guide you through the process. And I think, that's not something that everybody would know to protect themselves with something like that could go wrong. So it's important to, especially, new home buyers.
I've always stated you can never have enough protection, whether it's your homeowner's insurance, your car insurance, title insurance. You always need to protect the most valuable purchases that you make over time. And I think when you make those purchases, might as well protect them. And if, for a few extra dollars here and there, in the long run, it comes back to pay you in tenfold.
Yep. Okay. So if you're buying a new home, you probably hear about your service from your realtor, your real estate attorney. Maybe your insurance agent would tell you about how important that is on there.
Absolutely.
And First Equity, you guys are really involved with the Pink Tie organization. I know you guys have a big events all year long, but you also have one big event every year.
Well, we had one last night. We had the Halloween costume party.
Nice. What'd you
So
go as?
I went as John Gotti,
Okay. Oh,
only because I had to work the front door,
there you
collect
go.
all the tickets. Uh,
No,
so
no one was getting past you.
so nobody was getting past the.
I don't have my ticket. I'm just gonna walk out. I don't want no trouble.
uh, yeah, I'm a big burly guy. Pink Tie was founded about 5 years ago by the two owners of First Equity, Mike and Richard Cave. They started the foundation in memory of their aunt who died of breast cancer. So originally, Pink Tie was associated with raising funds for breast cancer. Over the years, that has really matriculated to now just cancer in general. Um, Although we support breast cancer, a large sum of the donations that we've raised over the last 2 years have gone to start the Stony Brook Foundation. Stony Brook University Hospital has created a pediatric cancer ward similar to St. Jude's, the one out in Missouri, where young people can go and get proper cancer treatment and have their parents close by. Um, it's a tragic event. I know the experience firsthand, not so much from my children, but my wife is a two-time cancer survivor. My wife had breast cancer 15 years ago, and then 5 years later she had lung cancer.
Oh,
And so and I'm grateful for organizations like Pink Tie, who raise enormous amounts of money and don't ask for anything more than the fact that they're trying to eliminate this terrible disease. um, and we have really taken the charity part of the function and have expanded it uh, enormously. It's not just a gala and you go to a dinner and you get your usual chicken dinner and you write a check. Um, we've expanded it to create a business to business networking foundation. We have an enormous amount of corporate sponsorship who come together and share their resources with Pink Tie. Uh, you may see them a lot here now on Long Island. There's 10 of them. They're called Pump and Goes, where you go to the gas station. There's a big pink sign on the front emblem, and for every gallon of gas that you pump, 3 cents goes to Pink Tie, which then goes for cancer research. We've also developed a relationship with Trinity Solar. So every time a couple goes and puts solar energy on their home through Trinity, Trinity sends an enormous refund, part of the monies that they make, to Pink Tie, and periodically the savings that are going back to the homeowners, a percentage of that, I think it's 2 to 3 cents per kilowatt, is now going into the Pink Tie fund. I believe that this year and last year we've raised slightly over $1 million
wow.
for cancer research, and 100% of the money, nothing is going. There are no administration. Everyone in the company is a active member of Pink Tie. The president, Mike Cave, and Rich Cave, the executive vice president, do 99.9% of all the work for free. There's every dime that is raised goes to whatever organization. 2 years ago it was the Don Monte Foundation in North Shore. This year it's Stony Brook, and next year it'll be another uh, huge cause to stop and eradicate this terrible disease.
That's great. That's great. So you guys are making differences, and helping all around. You're helping the people that need it the most. You're helping the people that are supporting it. Great. And that's what we've been trying to do, kind of with this podcast, the Helping Hands podcast, talking about people that are making a difference. We're talking about different people, especially here on Long Island, that are helping the community, helping us grow positive stories, because that's what we're here for. We're, as an insurance company, we're here on people's worst day. So we're trying to make things a little more positive, a little more better. Um, you're a graduate of LaSalle Military Academy. It's a military school.
It was a military
Was a
school.
military school. How did you get involved? Is that something that you wanted to do? Because I mean, when I hear military school, we were talking the other day about it, and my mom, when I was misbehaving, would always threaten military school to me, and I know your personality, and I don't know if that's something that you how, how did that happen?
Basically, what happened was my brother Thomas, who is 5 years my senior, had won a scholarship to LaSalle. So he set the fourth road for me to follow. When I saw when he went to LaSalle, what he was going through with the military and all, I was just ecstatic to be a part of. Uh, I always used to tell him as a young man, I was, you know, look at all the toy soldiers. Um, but once I got there on my own, I realized that it was a school, and we lived there. I was, hushed out of my house at 13 years old to, make my own bed and shine my own shoes, and basically to take care of myself. Was I learned what it really took to be a young man, the responsibility. I learned a lot more about my faith. It was a Catholic university, high school, so run by Christian brothers. I learned discipline very quickly.
I'm sure.
Uh, uh, but the greatest thing that I took away from LaSalle was brotherhood. Um, the school closed in 2004, and the Alumni Association is still an active working participant with 2,000 members. Um, we when the when LaSalle Military High School closed, the Alumni Association got together, founded by one specific class, the class of 1977, and they, along with the Catholic Charities of Rockville Center, decided to open up a grammar school called the De La Salle School, uh, prep school. The prep school are grades 5 to 8, and we raised money through fundraising, and which will lead us into something that you participate with on a daily basis, or a weekly basis, or a monthly basis. But we raised the money to send underprivileged young men to get a Catholic grammar school um, education, and then we help foster that education to getting scholarships to the local Catholic high schools, and then they go on to college and so forth. Um, Almost 16 years ago, we started off, I believe, with like 7 students. Today, we're just getting close to 200
Wow.
on a annual basis. Um, the fundraising is either 100% full tuition or a discounted tuition when they have the ability to pay something. Most, I will say that 97% of the students are minorities. So we're trying our damnedest to do what we can to help take them out of bad environments. Um, and some of the homes that these young men come from, you'd be surprised that today in America, people are still living in their ways, but they have very deep rooted families who want them to achieve the most, and all of the young men take full advantage of this opportunity. And I have to say that everyone that has gone through De La Salle has graduated through high school and have gone on to either the military or to college. So
Okay.
we have there's nobody who's, I mean, on occasion you lose one or two every once in a while, but for the most part we have a almost 100% success ratio with the young men that we have sponsored and sent to school there.
That's outstanding. I know you're very passionate about this because you've been working with this for a couple of years, and you've always talked about that. You kind of answered my next question because I was kind of putting everything together because I was going to ask you, is that where you got your work ethic from? Because you are, Jim and I would have breakfast together every Wednesday for years, and you are one of the most hardworking people that I have ever met. You'd come sometimes with papers that you were going to, final last minute details that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's and making sure everything is done. And I've learned a lot from you about working with people and hustling and getting the job done. Is it from that? Is it from something else? Is it from your combination of things, your
No,
upbringing?
no, the two things that you learn from the military part of the school when we went to LaSalle was repetition, repetition, repetition. Which means you constantly keep doing the same routine task over and over again until you perfect the task, and where the task almost becomes uh, mundane because in your mind you can do it in your sleep. Uh, the second thing that the military constantly uh, imposes at you is to always be prepared for everything. So you can't take anything for granted. You've got to be prepared. Um, the third thing that I was on my way here I was thinking of, always be early. Don't be late.
That's the other thing. You were always the first one there at
Yeah,
breakfast.
they always told you to be early because you never know when you're going to get surprised with an emergency. And when you're early, you can either deal with the emergency or you can at least leave where you are and go and deal with that emergency because people have already saw you were there. So it's always imperative that I'm on time or early. I'm practically 99.9% early for everything. Even at my closings, I go, I'm early. Uh, Second is to always be prepared. Make sure that all of your I's are dotted, all your T's are crossed. Don't go and have to like resolve something, at the last minute because you just didn't take the time to review it. And the last thing is, do something over and over and over and over again until you can do it in your sleep. And once you go, everything else will become so easy. The task will become so mundane and so nonchalant that you'll fly through it, and then you realize you haven't even been working. You won't feel like you're working.
Right. And you say this, and I'm laughing because you are the one that gives me the most crap about making my bed in the morning. And it's from a video from I think it's a general that said the first thing that you do in the morning is you make your bed.
If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed.
Make sure you make your bed because you've accomplished a task. And then at the worst case scenario, if you had a terrible day, you come home and you have a nice crisp bed. And every morning, Jim will give me a hard time about making my. Dan, did you make your bed? Did you make?
Ironically that you say that, but the first thing in the military school that you do the minute the alarm goes off or the bugle
That's
plays
where I got it from.
is you make your bed, and at the end your bed is made because you flip a quarter, and if the quarter bounces, then the bed is made pristinely, and if the quarter doesn't bounce, then you have to start all over again. And the one thing, I will never knock a military education. The only thing that I will knock is the ugly haircuts that we had to live through, because 90% bald all the time. Uh, but it's 4 years. It's nearly almost 40 years since I've graduated from high school, and there's not a day that goes by that I wish I was there all over again, doing it all over. I miss it greatly, and that's why it's imperative that I work so hard. And all of the members of my board of governors. I'm the vice president of the Alumni Association. Anthony DeSimone is the president. Anthony and I have dedicated members of our board of directors who work so diligently every year to raise so much money, uh, so that these young men have the opportunity. And then eventually, we're going to open it up to young women. We started with young men. We wanted to see how it worked, and now it's really progressing so well that now we're going to try to get a cooperative co-ed version of the school and start opening it up to young women as well, and giving them just the same opportunity as the young men do. Just don't want you to think that we were, we were, just prejudiced to boys, but we're going to get the girls there, I promise. Listen, it took 110 years to have the first young lady join LaSalle Military Academy, so it's going to take us a few extra years to get our
Right.
first De La Salle young lady, but she will be there, and she's going to probably uh, be the most successful one, because the first one is usually that test model, and her success rides for the future of all the others. But leading into that, you being in the insurance business, this Saturday, November 3rd, we're going to have from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock a exotic car show. And I say exotic cars because I know nothing about cars. Uh, but we're going to have exotic muscle, old-fashioned vehicles. We're going to have it at the De La Salle School in Freeport in the parking lot. We're going to have DeLoreans, the Clarens, McLarens, Ferraris, Porsches, all the way down to Model Ts, and
Nice.
67 Chevys with the big wheels and the big motor engines. Uh, we're expecting somewhere between 60 and 80 vehicles. The emission is free. Security is going to be very tight around. Some of these vehicles are as valuable as $2.5 million.
Holy cow.
Um, I was like,
We're hoping it's sunny that day.
and the big part is that we get Dan's Allstate uh, and his fellow Allstate members to get there, because all these vehicles need very special insurance, as well as our sponsors are Costco, and we have a few extra additional charities. We have a homeless home for veterans that will be there raising money, as well as the De La Salle School. And it's a wonderful event. We're going to have raffles. We're going to have a 50-50. We're going to raffle away a 45-inch screen television. Uh, and then the participants who come to the event vote on the vehicles who are going to win the awards. So we give out awards for best muscle car, best antique, best exotic, best car show, and then these fabulous trophies that are donated by Oceanside Masonry. Got to get them in there, who are one of our biggest sponsors.
Are they made of concrete or?
No, they're not made of concrete or stone, but they're very lavish. Um, and I anybody who's free wants to come down and see what a $2.5 million vehicle looks like. I'm amazed.
Watch from a distance. Look at it from a distance.
Well, you get up close, but not too close, because of course the insurance, we can't afford to scratch anything.
No.
But it's like I never saw what a Bugatti looks like. I never saw what a Ferrari up close looked like, or a Lamborghini, or a McLaren. So if you're really a good or an interested car buff, this is the perfect show to attend. And like I said, the admissions are free, but get there early because parking is difficult.
Okay. Okay. It's coming up. It's this weekend. It's
It's
November.
this Saturday from 10 to 1 at the De La Salle School in Freeport, right off Sunrise Highway and Guy Lombardi Avenue.
Okay.
I believe it's Guy Lombardi Avenue.
Okay. And it's November 3rd.
November 3rd.
Saturday. Okay. What's the time again?
From 10 to 1.
10 to 1. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Anything else you want to?
No, I just want to first of all thank you. I really love this opportunity. These podcasts, I think they're a fantastic way of getting your message across. I hope that the people out there who watch your show, and I'm hearing now it's getting close to 1,000 people. So you're getting to
No,
be.
it's just my mom.
It's just his mom.
that's it.
No, it is. It's getting impressive.
Hi,
People are
Mom.
watching. Hi, Mom. But more importantly, you can go on www.pinktie.com if you're interested in participating or functioning or working with the Pink Tie Foundation to solve cancer. And it is the www.lsma, that's LSMA, that's LaSalle Military Academy, Alumni Association to find out, or the De La Salle School at gmail.com, and look them up. And if you want to help out young men and women to go to school for free, we could use every dollar. So, and I thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity this
You
morning.
got it. Thank you for coming
Okay.
by and chatting with you. I miss you, and I'll put all the links in the bottom in the description so you can go check out the LaSalle Military.
I brought
Academy
them all with
alumni
me.
and the and for the car show and for the Pink Tie Foundation. Jim, thanks so much for being here, and have a great luck this weekend, and thanks for all that you're doing for the community.
Well, I thank you, and I hope we see you there too, buddy.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye now.
You got it.